From the Higley Center for the Performing Arts in Gilbert, Arizona, welcome to EThree. Here's your host, Mr. Bob Zucker.
Good evening, everyone. Here we are again, Thursday night. I'm your host, Bob Zucker, and this is EThree. And we're doing things a little differently tonight. Normally, I come out here and I stand and I talk to you, but tonight, I'm going to be the orchestra conductor. No, that's not right. I have so many things to tell you about tonight, and we have such great guests tonight. I decided to do things a little differently. First of all, you'll notice behind me, and hopefully I'm not blocking the Gilbert Water Tower. I'm not. Good. A lot of the show is about the town of Gilbert. A matter of fact, our guests tonight, who will be meeting in about 20 minutes, are the mayor of Gilbert, and that's Mayor Scott Anderson, and then we have Councilmember Kathy Tilque. And so we're going to talk about Gilbert a lot. And we've got water towers all over the stage. You just have to look for them. It's like, where's Waldo? But there are water towers on the stage. Anyway, tonight is a night of announcements. And we have some great announcements, and I'm really happy to be able to make this very first announcement. March 11th was the last live performance that we had here at the Higley Center as far as a concert or a show, with an audience. And it is my pleasure to announce tonight that the Higley Center is being reborn. We are announcing we're going to be doing shows, and those shows are going to start. This COVID thing has just made everybody a little, I guess I can use the word depressed, but I know I feel that way every once in a while. So there's no better way to come out of this and start doing live shows again than to do something happy and with family. And that's how we're going to start bringing live performance back to Higley. Our very first show, let me just back up and say this. People are already asking, when are tickets going on sale? Probably around the 1st of November. We're actually in the process of changing out our ticketing provider at the Higley Center. So that's our goal, is to have things on sale November 1st. But our very first show will be a holiday show, a Christmas show. A gentleman who's been here, I think 3 times before. He does a tribute to Neil Diamond. He's put together a brand new holiday show. And he'll do a lot of the Neil Diamond hits, but he's also going to do some great Christmas stuff. He was here a few weeks ago, and we recorded some promo material, and I'm going to share with you right now a clip from a Cherry Cherry Christmas, a Neil Diamond holiday tribute.
Wish you a very merry cherry cherry Christmas and a holly holy holiday too. Underneath your tree, may there always be sounds of harmony, not a song sung blue. Just a very merry cherry cherry Christmas. And if all of those who love you gather near, you'll have a very merry cherry cherry holly holy rock and rolly Christmas this year. When the snow drops on the treetops, it's a pretty amazing scene. Hear the choir, light the fire, feels like pretty amazing grace, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, it's Christmas time in a world of make-believe. I'm a believer, and I believe in things not often understood. with the things you feel. Make believing real. That's why Christmas feels so good, so good, so good. When you imagine all the world as one great chorus, you're gonna learn that every voice has got a song. Let's lift a Christmas toast of red, red wine. We'll even sing Sweet Caroline as the whole world sings along.
And that is Jack Wright doing his Cherry Cherry Christmas and Neil Diamond Holiday Tribute Show, our first live performance with an audience for the season for our reopening, and that will take place on Saturday, December 5th. Watch our website, watch your emails if you're on our email list, and we will put those tickets on sale as soon as we can. We continue our Christmas theme. We're well known for doing Southwest Youth Ballet's Nutcracker. I think this will be our 12th year that we're doing it, and that'll be on December 11th, 12th, and 13th. At this point, we don't know exactly how many shows or what the times will be because we have to adjust based on, limited audience sizes, but that'll be December 11th, 12th, and 13th. And then we finish off December with another one of our favorites as far as people who have been here countless times. Jim Curry does a John Denver tribute, and it's the most popular John Denver tribute in the country, actually in the world. And Jim is coming back. He'll do, again, all of the John Denver favorites, but he's also going to do a Rocky Mountain Christmas, and that'll be on December 23rd. And then we have one other show right now on the schedule, and that's going to be in March 17th. And it's a group called Acoustic Eidolon. Again, they were probably here 5-6 years ago. It's a husband and wife duo. Joe Scott plays a custom double neck acoustic guitar. His wife Hannah is a world-renowned cellist. And together they make beautiful music, they sing songs, and that'll be in March. We will be adding other things, but this is, for now, what our season's going to be. We also are already have a lot of stuff planned for next season, for what we refer to as 21-22. And these are all reschedules of things that were supposed to happen this year, but I mention them because they're great shows. And these shows will also go on sale in the next few months. August 28th, 2021, I am thrilled to welcome the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band to the Higley Center. On November 11th, 2021, on Veterans Day, we will have a special program by the Bellamy Brothers. And on December 4th, 2021, we're back to that Christmas theme again. We will have Christmas with the Nelsons, Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, Ricky Nelson's twin boys. They will be here doing their Christmas show. And we're thrilled to have them back. They've also delighted audiences here many times. Now, talking about delighting audiences, we have a performer next who will kind of segue me into walking over to the desk, but I don't really know if we can call this entertaining audiences. This guest, he's making faces at me, this is great, comes from our other live stream show that we do on Tuesday nights called Crash Landings, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's done by our tech crew. And I never know what's going to happen because they're truly very inventive. So they invent things like they said, Dylan, you're going to play the kazoo. And so we've named this entertainer Mr. Kazoo. And backed by popular demand, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Kazoo, who will do his best, which is questionable what best means, to play one of my favorite songs on the kazoo, Africa by Toto. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kazoo. So, anyway, Dylan, actually, that wasn't bad. It really wasn't. So I think what we'll do is next time we will allow you to bring your band with you. So I understand you're going to add a drummer next time. That's the rumor I've heard. All right, we continue with announcement night. I really enjoyed announcing our Christmas shows and our season. You know, I always talk about future programming here on HCTV, and we have coming up on October 8th, we have a music guest. Sandy Hathaway will join us. Sandy is an amazing vocalist. She's original songwriter. She also sings opera. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the show. October 22nd, we have a newly formed Appalachian group called Hambone. And they will be here as music guests. Now, October 29th is a very special announcement. Now, I'm going to reach over, and we're going to light up, assuming I can actually find the switch from where I am. There it is. I found it. Okay, so we lit that up, which you can't really see in the lights. And I'm going to hold up my water cup, which, as those of you who have watched before, says Picard and Riker 2020 for the next generation. So anyway, there's my political statement for the day. Obviously, I like things about outer space, and I have the space shuttle with me on my desk. This is by way of introducing a partnership that the Higley Center is entering into to present a series of programs that will feature space exploration. And we are going to be working with an organization called Explore Mars. They are an organization that, you know, among other things, they work with NASA. They help NASA get funding from Congress. They help educate people on space exploration, and obviously being named Explore Mars, their goal is to get us to the planet Mars by 2030. But before we get to the planet Mars in 2030, things that have to happen is we have to get back to the moon. We have to figure out how we're going to pay for the trip to Mars. We have technology that needs to be created, just like when we did the space race with the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and the space shuttle. And we're going to have people on from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory to talk about propulsion systems. We're going to talk about how we are going to land on Mars, how we're going to travel there, and how we're going to put enough fuel and air and food on the ship that gets us there. We're going to talk about what are we going to do when we get there? We're going to talk about setting up a permanent settlement on Mars, and the same thing. How are we going to grow food? How are we going to have air? How are we going to get water? Our first show on the subject is October 29th. That's like 4 weeks from today. And that show is going to feature the CEO of Explore Mars, Janet of Janet's Planet, along with someone really special. And I think the best way to introduce him is to simply say, he took a ride one day, and here's a picture of his ride.
Sound suppression water system activated. 13 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Main engine ignition. 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery to complete NASA's constellation of tracking stations in the sky.
Houston now controlling the flight of Discovery. Roger, roll, Discovery. Discovery completes the roll to place the shuttle in a heads-down, wings-level position for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit.
And that was what was referred to as STS-70, which was actually a little odd because it lifted off after STS-71, but that's a whole nother story we can talk about. And the reason that I'm showing you that video of the launch of Discovery, STS-70, is our guest on October 29th will be Don Thomas, who was on board STS-70. He is also the author of a book called Orbit of Discovery. He's a veteran of 4 space flights. He spent 44 days in space and orbited the Earth over 700 times. In addition to being on Discovery, he was also on 2 flights of the Space Shuttle Columbia. I am really, really excited to start this series. And we're doing this as an educational opportunity, not just for adults, but for children. So please get your kids, get your grandkids, have them watch the show on October 29th. We're going to make available the ability for kids to ask Don questions. So it's going to be it's going to be really interesting. And what's going to make this more interesting, and I can't promise this, but I can say it's been talked about, and we're going through the lengthy process of trying to make this happen. But sometime in this series, we're going to hopefully be able to arrange a live uplink on the show to the International Space Station. So I'm just totally excited about this. Now, staying in the outer space realm, and since we're talking about Mars, you know, when we talk about Mars, you very often talk about an invasion from Mars. Well, the Higley Center staff, along with Higley High School Drama, is going to bring an invasion to Mars to this very stage the very next day on October 30th. We're going to tell you more about that later on in the show. So let's go on with some of our regular segments. I'm going to breeze through these because I really want to get to our guests. So today in history, in 1569, how many of you were there? Sometimes I feel old enough. William Shakespeare's father, John Shakespeare. Okay, now let's listen. William Shakespeare sounds like a really classy name. John Shakespeare? I don't know. Well, his father was elected the mayor of Stratford-on-the-Avon, England. In 1811, the very first steamboat on the Mississippi River sails from Pittsburgh to New Orleans. And it took a month to make the trip. And the name of the steamboat was named after its destination. It was called the New Orleans. And then 1880, John Philip Sousa was named director of the Marine Corps Band. Today's birthdays include in 1920, actor Walter Matthau, who you probably know from The Odd Couple or the movie Grumpy Old Men. 1934, our 39th president was born. That would be Jimmy Carter. And in 1935, Mary Poppins was born. Julie Andrews was born, known for Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, and so many other things. Each week I share, and I just have to acknowledge this, the space theme. Remember the space theme? Back in the background, Jean-Luc is with us, as always, in the background. He's always somewhere on the set. All right. Each week I share a item of memorabilia, movie, TV, entertainment memorabilia from my personal collection. And this week, I want to talk about something called a sock puppet. Actually, the most famous sock puppet of all time was named Lamb Chop, and Lamb Chop is kind of here tonight. He's been waiting right down here on the floor next to the desk. I'm going to just go bring him up here. How many of you remember Lamb Chop from when you were growing up? Here we go. Here is Lamb Chop. Lamb Chop was the invention of master puppeteer Sherry Lewis, who first appeared with Lamb Chop on the Arthur Godfrey show in the mid-1950s. Sherry was given her own NBC show, the Sherry Lewis Show, in 1960, and she did that show for almost 2 decades, and then she was on PBS from 1992 to 97. Unfortunately, we lost Sherry in 1998 from some side effects having to do with cancer. But for those of you who did not have Lamb Chop as part of your childhood, and for those of you who did, here's a video clip of Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop.
First Noel, old Santa did say, when I got this hat on, I can't find my way. Noel, 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 trying to see in this hat is just hello, everybody.
Lamb Chop, what are you doing up? I told you you could not see this next TV show.
That's why I was wearing that big hat. I could not see a thing, but I could listen.
No.
Oh, please, Sherry, please. Everybody in the whole world is going to be watching this TV show, okay?
So there we go, Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. And you'll notice we're keeping the Christmas theme going, even with that clip. And I said Lamb Chop was kind of here. Me putting on a sock puppet of Lamb Chop is not exactly Lamb Chop. Actually, I forgot one thing I wanted to show you that I have to tell you about. Okay, so here's Lamb Chop again. And we will have, when Sherry Lewis died, Lamb Chop did not die with her. Sherry Lewis's daughter, Mallory Lewis, continues, even today, to do shows with Lamb Chop. And in 2022 or 2023, she'll be here and doing the show with Lamb Chop. And I got to meet Mallory and Lamb Chop in person about 5 years ago. And on the back of this Lamb Chop is Mallory's, it's actually Lamb Chop's signature, which is just a picture of Lamb Chop. So I have a signed version of Lamb Chop signed by Lamb Chop. Anyway, so I guess it's time to get serious. The mayor just laughed. So anyway, we're going to go into our talk segment, and we're going to talk about the town that we're in, the town of Gilbert. A little bit about our guests. Scott Anderson was elected to the town council in 2016, is currently serving as mayor. He has been involved in planning and development as a member of the staff of the city of Gilbert since 1988 until he retired. Scott is the founding father of the Gilbert Riparian Preserve, and I can never say that word right, but maybe I said it right, riparian. It was his idea to transform a wastewater treatment site from a simple water recharge station into a national award-winning project that has become one of the most popular visitor destinations in the state. We also have Kathy Tilque, who served, before becoming a council member, served as president CEO of the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce for 24 years, retiring on June 30th. Well, let's see, retiring June 30th, 2020. I'm right. And you spent 32 years working in the Chamber of Commerce industry. And she's a graduate of class number 1 of the Gilbert Leadership. And actually, I think you also were a founding member and involved in that. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Scott Anderson and Councilmember Kathy Tilque. So, welcome. I understand you guys are very soft-spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You're probably right.
And that's unusual for politicians. Okay. So when I invited them on the show, one of the things I said, when I sent them the list of things we were going to talk about, I said, so number one, we're not going to talk about politics. Okay? What we are going to talk about is Gilbert, Arizona. And Gilbert, Arizona is a town that everybody wants to move to and everyone loves. Why? What's great about Gilbert, Arizona?
Wow, that's a
Is that a broad question?
that's a big question. And by the way, thanks for having us here, Bob. We really appreciate it. I think if you look at all of the awards over the last few years that Gilbert has won, best place to have a business, best place to raise a family, one of the safest communities in the entire country, and the list goes on and on of all these honors that Gilbert has received, and that's because the people that are here are just dedicated towards having an excellent community, and that's why it's become so popular, and people are looking for opportunities to live, to start a business here, just because it's such a great place.
You know, it's interesting. We've had a couple of people who live and work in Gilbert. We've had attorney Becky Tilque. We've had Kayla Kolar from the HD South. And these are examples of people who live here and are dedicated to making the town a better place. One of the things I think we really need to talk about is we need to talk about how the town has dealt with the COVID-19 situation. Mm-hmm. And, how has that affected town operations and, what goes on in the town and events? And I'm going to let you guys answer that question. Whoever wants to answer.
You want to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay.
First, Bob, thank you so much for inviting us to be here. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be back in the Higley Center. It's been a while since I've seen you, and I know you've got a dynamic team here, and just appreciate everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
When it comes to COVID-19, I believe the world was taken by surprise. There's no doubt. And I think when it first started, we never really thought it would reach our own hometown. I think a lot of people felt that. And so we had to kind of turn on a dime to figure out how best to help our residents and businesses. And so I'll probably talk a little more on the business side.
Okay.
But the first thing that we had to do from the chamber perspective is getting out information to businesses as soon as possible. What are the requirements? What are the guidelines? Because information was coming from every direction. We tried to filter that and get them the latest information. And let me tell you, it was a 7-day-a-week, 14, 20-hour days at times trying to sort through that. But as a community, the business community and the town worked really closely together. And one of the things we started right away was a weekly call with the mayor. At that time, it was Mayor Jen Daniels. And together, we were able to provide information, especially when it came to funding. And so a lot of those programs were coming forward, and people didn't understand how to apply for those. And so we brought in a lot of experts. And really what we wanted to do is listen to our residents and our businesses about what are your concerns and how can we gather that information and share it with you. And so those continued for quite a while. The other thing that people were worried about was, can I keep my business open? What do I do with my employees? And through that transition period, what we found is a lot of people had to stop and readjust their entire business environment so that people were able to work from home. I'm sure a lot of your employees did the same, and so did the town. And so we were really lucky because I think we were forward thinking as a town of Gilbert from a staff perspective, that we were ready pretty quickly to have people move from in-house to their homes and be working. One of the things that, there's many great things that, Mayor, you may want to talk about as well, but it's interesting that during this time, the town of Gilbert was able to do virtual inspections so that as businesses were still building or homes were being built or even remodeled, those types of things, they were able to do those inspections online quickly. And I think what we found from that is now we may not have to do all that driving, and we may be able to turn around some of the inspections and the permits and different things like that. We were already going online for submittals of plans. And so I think from that perspective, we were probably ready to make that transition.
Let me tell you about some of the common questions I get about COVID and what's going on in Gilbert with COVID. The most common question I get is, when are you going to end the mask mandate? Why do we have to wear masks? And just so that everybody knows, our mask mandate in Gilbert actually expired back in July. The mayor did sign an executive order in May that mandated masks, as well as some other things, social distancing and some other things. And we were I think we were the only community that I was aware of that actually put a sunset on that that declaration. Right. And the sunset was in July, so we don't have a mask mandate per se in Gilbert. However, there is still a mask mandate in place by the county.
Right.
And so we have to watch the metrics and see how things go, and we'll see how the county reacts. And then we may get to a point where we can ease some of that. So that's what, and one of the other common questions I get is, how severe is it in Gilbert? And our latest, I just looked at our latest metrics here today, and I believe we had 38 cases in Gilbert, which brings our total to about 5,500 since the start of the whole pandemic.
Okay.
But the number of cases in Gilbert, it spiked back in early summer. And the number of cases now in August, starting in the first part of August and through October 1st today, we actually have not exceeded 50 cases a day, I don't think, during that time. And most of the cases have stayed about 30 or 35 cases. So,
and what's the population now of Gilbert?
Population is right near 260,000
Yeah,
people.
for a town that size, those are good numbers.
Yeah. And I did just hear today also that virtually all of the counties in Arizona have now met all the necessary metrics for opening up businesses, gyms, what have you. So we'll see how the state, a lot of what we do, the requirements we have on how many people can be in a facility like this, or how many people can attend ball games, things like that, or depend on the metrics and how they are dealt with by the state. The governor needs to lift those state mandates, and so we're watching that very closely. But as Kathy said, we're working very closely. We did receive $29 million from the federal government for COVID relief, And a good portion of that money will be used to help businesses that she's talking about. They've done a lot of work working with businesses to help them. But a good share of that money also will be going to help individuals who are needing retraining to find a job or whatever their needs may be, so that they can get through this very difficult time. And just so if there are people that are listening that are interested in knowing more about how they can tap those funds, the total amount, we have a website, gilbertaz.gov/AZCares,
Okay.
if they want to access that and look into that a little bit more. But that's we have a significant amount of money also that's set aside for our public safety here, because the funds were that was the directive as we received those funds from the federal government, that a lot of that money be used for our public safety. So there's a good portion of it going to them too. But that kind of catches us up on what's happening here locally with COVID. It's still a difficult time for us all, but I think we're beginning to see things lighten up a bit.
Two other questions that I have, and maybe Kathy's the best one to answer this because of your time with the chamber. Businesses basically shut down. They are reopening, but they're reopening as a shadow of their former selves. And one of the things, because I also own a small business, that I'm concerned about is, we made it through these hard times, but the time between now and the time before we actually are fully back, I'm a little concerned. It's like, how much longer can all of our businesses survive at these reduced levels?
Right.
And I'll particularly mention, one of the things that makes Gilbert so great, and we're looking at it right here, is the Heritage District. And I mean, how many restaurants are in the Heritage District? Will they all still be here a year from now? Let me get your insight on that.
It's there's a lot unknown and a lot of uncertainty. And as you know, businesses are not going to invest if there's a climate of uncertainty. And so I think the first thing that they're most interested in is, how am I going to provide the service to my customers? And can my customers afford me any longer, because their business is experiencing the same kind of uncertainty that they are? And then how do I take care of my employees? And so when we got the federal dollars, that helped for a time. But I think one of the, hindsight's always 2020, as you know, and even though nobody wants to say 2020 after this year, I don't think, but, it would have, with employees being able to go on in unemployment, if we could have extended the time that they had to use their PPP funds, so that they could have saved that for when they opened their business up and brought their employees back in a timely manner that held them over until their revenue stream got back to full force. And I think that's what you're talking about. What's going to happen between now until I'm fully operational at the rate I was before? And I don't have a lot of answers to that. I know that people are still going to be in a situation where they can't bring all of their employees back because they don't have a revenue stream to do so.
Well, and that brings me to the next discussion item, and that is, and one of you already alluded to this, is the fact that COVID has changed our world. It has, like you talked about doing inspections, remotely. It's changed the way you're deploying your workforce. And it's not just the town that's doing that. I know a number of people who are in commercial real estate right now and I'm originally a New Yorker, and these are the people I know, and they don't know if they're going to survive into the future because they're already seeing, they're getting notices from businesses saying, you know what, we don't need 3 floors in that building anymore. Because strangely enough, it actually worked out sending our workforce home. So do you have any idea how many people are lost their jobs in Gilbert. I don't know if you know those numbers.
I don't have those numbers, do you?
Neither. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Gilbert may have been a little different from other surrounding areas just because of the makeup of the town and the demographics. But I think that would be something interesting to look at. But all right, so we have the downtown area, all the restaurants. I haven't been downtown in months. Is it starting to come back to life?
It is. I go downtown a lot, and it's not as bustling as it was. You can get a parking spot.
Really?
Closer.
Wow, that's a change.
I guess if you have to find a silver lining, that one you can get a parking spot. But people are still going downtown. They're still eating in the restaurants. We see them at the park. It's just the numbers are a lot lower than they were. The fact that restaurants can only have 50% capacity has limited that. But I'm hearing from a lot of restaurants that their takeout business has been very good.
Right.
And it's helping them get through this time. Again, if they don't have the overhead of payroll cost, and they're getting revenue from that takeout, then that can help them get through this time, right?
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking of that this might be a good time, and there's always been this movement in the background in every city and town. It may be time to really start pushing the buy local thing again, because that's what it's all about. We have to help each other.
Well, one good indicator of whether or not things are coming back is to follow our revenue stream, the tax revenues that the town is receiving. We've been pleasantly surprised. We've actually increased over last year at the same time, and it stayed. We were waiting for the bottom to fall out at some point, but it never has. So I think people are doing exactly as they're suggesting. And they're doing it in a different way, whether it's takeout or other innovative ways, but they're still spending their dollars.
Yeah, before the show, we were kind of talking about the fact that this recovery is extremely localized. Every city and every town is different. I happen to live in Mesa, and the last time I saw a story about this, I heard that their tax revenues were off by $65 million. I don't know if that's an accurate number, but I know it's some terrible number like that. And so it's going to take them a while to recover from that kind of loss. That's huge. But they rely so much more on the tourist community and the snowbird community, and that's where they lost out. Yeah, so that's a hard thing. So let's be positive, okay? Everywhere you look, you'll find a COVID discussion. But let's talk about the town is doing so many good things right now. Now, just some of the things that come to mind, and I'm sure there's other, is in the last 6 months, you've opened up a new regional park. Tell me about some of those kinds of things that are going on.
Well, we did open a regional park, and as a matter of fact, Phase 1C is about to happen again here in October, and that will be opening a large part of that park, a large open area, a lake where there will be urban fishing allowed. We have an amphitheater that's opening up. That will be happening over the next few weeks, and of course we have our other park.
Well, the one over here, right near the center, it was that Desert something?
Sky.
Desert Sky opened in the last 6 months.
And it's been opened here just recently, and we were offering a lot of recreation possibilities there with pickleball courts and tennis courts and so forth. So we realized that there was a real need and a real desire by the people living in the south part of Gilbert to have amenities like that, and we've finally been able to bring that to them, and it's been a very positive thing. What we've received, the comments we've received up to now.
Well, and you mentioned earlier some of that money was the money you got was put aside for public safety.
Yeah.
And when it comes to public safety, I mean, one of your big projects, and I drive by it every day, and it looks like it's just getting ready to open, and that is the police and fire training facility.
Yeah, just right over here.
Right.
Yep. And that is what a great thing that's going to be, because going into the future, we need an experienced, we need a trained public safety workforce, and we're certainly going to be able to get that, as that'll be a state-of-the-art facility that will be so advantageous for all of our officers and our firemen here in town. So we're really looking forward to that opening in the next couple of months.
Now, your plans are to train your own people, but will you also be working with other cities and towns?
There's that possibility. We're always the first priority, which is the way we've been taught by other cities,
Right.
because we were using their facilities, and we were lower on the totem pole for use of the facility. But yeah, there will be an opportunity for others to share in that.
That's great. Mayor, having you here, I cannot avoid this subject because, and I mentioned it when I introduced you, you came up with the idea of the Gilbert Riparian Preserve. And am I saying that right?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, you are.
And I know that I love that place. Everybody in this town loves that place, walks around it, and I mean, it was originally what it was called? It's a water recharge facility, and it was your idea to do this, to create this, and I know that it's been looked at by everyone in the state, it's been looked at by everyone in the country, and it's been looked at by people around the world, and you came up with the idea. Where did the idea come from? You know?
I could talk about this for a long time.
I bet you could.
I'll try and be brief. It actually goes back to 1980 when Arizona passed the Groundwater Management Act.
Okay.
In that act, all the cities in the state were required to get a little bit more creative on how we used particularly groundwater. As a matter of fact, part of that act required what they call safe yield, which means simply that you don't take out more than you can put back in. They want it to balance out. And so the thought was, how do we do that? What are we going to do? And the response by most cities is to do what they call direct injection, which is to take their treated wastewater and inject it back into the ground. You just reverse the action on a pump rather than pumping up. You're forcing it back. I had a thought years ago, back in the I guess it was the mid 80s, late 80s, that we could do. I had received word from the Audubon Society that they were using one of our recharge facilities to observe birds. And so I got the idea that, well, why don't we try and create a twofold project where we can recharge water and at the same time somewhere where people can go and recreate. And that's what we did. And excuse me. And that was our first site, which was about 72 acres. And then the second site was created later with the same thought in mind. And we did a little bit more creative use of the land. In the second one, we made it more user-friendly. And it was successful in attracting close to 300 species of birds now is about the number that's been attracted to it, which is really, most people that come to Arizona are interested in seeing birds down in the south part of Arizona. They don't understand that you can stay right here in the Phoenix area and see as many birds at the Riparian Preserve as you do down in southern Arizona.
How large is the entire preserve?
The one you're talking about is about 110 acres, but there are two other sites.
I wasn't even aware there were two other sites.
Yeah, there's the first site, which is about 72 acres, which is over off of Cooper Road and right near Guadalupe in that area. And the third site is down near here. It's off Higley Road in Ocotillo, which is one that we will be further developing in the next upcoming couple of years.
Is that second site open to the public like the first one?
This one on Higley?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. I was not aware of that.
It doesn't have anywhere near the same number of amenities and things that we have at the other site, which has the observatory, which is the only observatory dedicated for public use in the state, and other amenities that are in the preserve there.
Well, for those of you watching at home who are not familiar with this, get on the internet, look it up. It is just an amazing thing that we have here in the town of Gilbert. Okay, there's one thing that I have to ask before I let you go. We have 200-something thousand people. Why are we still a town?
Oh, Kathy, you can handle that one, can't you?
Well,
Yes.
I think the laws changed a little bit, but at one time you would have to create a charter and take it to the vote of the people to do so. And in doing that, you could change a lot of things, so, like your form of government. You could go from a town management, manager over operations to a mayor that's elected over operations, those types of things. And it dictates voting and all kinds of different things. And there never was a desire to go through that process. And I think that even though it is a little easier today to make that happen, people feel very strongly that we're a town because we have that feeling of belonging. It's your hometown, and they don't want to lose that.
Now, one of the awards, I think, aren't we like a hometown? Isn't that something we got, a hometown? I'm trying to think of what it was.
I think,
You know
was
what
that
I'm talking
the
about?
USS Arizona? That,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to be voting on that, I think, coming up in the next month.
Yeah.
But the USS Arizona is now going to be named a nuclear sub. So they're looking for a hometown that will be the sponsor of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
And virtually every survey we do, the small town feel is what people recognize Gilbert for. And you look around, it's like we said, we have 260,000 people here. How do you get a small town feel? But they're getting it still. Mm-hmm. And part of it is because we are a town. We're the largest town in the nation.
I asked that question specifically because I want you to know I wasn't trying to say you should do anything different, because I 100% agree with what you just said, because it's how I operate the Higley Center. When you go to, let's see, I won't name the other venues, but when you go to other venues, in some ways it's very impersonal. You walk in the door, there's thousands of people, you go see your show and you leave. Here, when you come to a show, what I've done is I'm always in the lobby, I'm greeting the patrons, and it's like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm looking to welcome my patrons, my friends, back to the Higley Center. And that goes along with the feel of the town. We're all friends. Right. And I think that's what makes this town so special.
No, for sure.
You're right.
I think that also goes back to your point when you were talking about shop local. I think that's why citizens went out of their way to make sure they were supporting the local small businesses during these hard times. And as the mayor mentioned, it's evidenced by the sales tax collections that we've received back that many of those businesses are doing well.
Right.
We have a lot of concern for those who aren't doing so well, which is why we have about $18 million that will be going back out into the community for businesses to help them through this hard time. Applications aren't quite ready, but they will be soon. So I hope that people will be looking online, either on the town website or the chamber website, for more information.
Okay, before we wrap up, I've asked the questions that I wanted to ask. Is there anything that either of you would like to add to our discussion?
There's an election coming up.
That's politics.
Oh, that's politics. I can't say that.
Well, just say, don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote.
That's
yes,
important.
I'm in complete agreement with that statement. Don't forget to vote.
Yeah.
Well, I am thrilled that you're opening again.
Yes.
And even if it's not to a full house at the beginning, at least we're opening. As you said, we're going to be gathering friends. We're going to enjoy entertainment together.
Yes.
And that's what makes this place so special.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Bob.
so much,
Thank
Bob.
you. All right. So we are back and continuing. And again, I want to thank Mayor Anderson and Councilmember Tilque, for being here. Want to remind everybody at home, Tuesday evenings we have our other live stream show called Crash Landings, and that's done by our Higley Center tech staff, and all I can say about that show is it's really odd. So we have one more thing to talk about tonight, and I mentioned it earlier in the show. On October 30th, we are doing a play. Actually, we're doing a radio broadcast that is a play here, and we're televising the radio. If you're not confused, I'll explain. Let's roll the clock back to October 30th, 1938. That was a day that scared all of America. That was the day that Orson Welles and his Mercury Theater on the Air did a radio broadcast of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, the director of the Mercury Theater and star of these broadcasts, Orson Welles.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
That broadcast, when I say it scared the world, it was presented as an invasion from Mars, as a news broadcast. And people, even though they advertised it months in advance, weeks in advance, if they tuned in the middle of it and didn't know what was going on, they actually thought Martians had invaded Earth. Well, and it was a radio broadcast. So what we are going to do on the anniversary of that show on October 30th, just a few weeks from now, our staff, along with Higley High School drama students, we're going to recreate the broadcast. We're going to be in, as authentic period costumes as we are. We're going to do the radio broadcast, and we're going to put our TV cameras on, and you can watch us do a radio broadcast just the way it was done. And one of the things with radio broadcasts in the 1930s is you didn't use recorded sound effects. You had what were called Foley artists. Foley artists are people whose job is to simply figure out, how do I make this sound, without going out and recording it? And how do I make it sound real? So 2 of our techs here at Higley are going to demonstrate for you a little bit of Foley magic. Gentlemen, it's yours.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. So we're going to start with something we discovered that sounds like a
sword coming out of its sheath.
Yeah. And we have a couple other sound effects as well.
And we've got this piece of sheet metal right here. And if I hit it together correctly and then slide it like this,
sword coming out of the sheath,
then
sword going back in. Okay, another one we discovered or tried to enact is the sound of a body hitting the floor. So we found a big sandbag and just dropped it.
About what, 25, 50 pounds? Or not 50, that's definitely not 50 pounds.
I say about 35.
35 pounds.
Okay. Pretty solid smack, I'd say. All right, what's next? Want to do the clappers?
Yeah, let's do the clappers next.
You go ahead and I'll do this.
So, I have these little wedge pieces of wood, and I've fashioned them together as so in what looks like a fan. And then I don't have too many of these, but if I were to get enough of them and it breaks, it could simulate applause.
Another one we tried to recreate is the sound of a gunshot. Just two pieces of wood, and we drilled holes in them to give them more of a booming sound effect. So we'll go ahead and try those now.
It's a big sound.
Oh yeah. All right.
We have this piece of sheet metal. And sheet metal can make all sorts of different noises. And if you hang it from a string, give it less, because if you just hold it with your hands, that really dampens the sound. Yeah. But if you hold it by the string, you get all sorts of different noises.
You want to do it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Let's get a little closer.
Yeah.
I'll give it a couple more.
Okay.
That could be used to simulate the sound of rain hitting a tin roof.
Okay.
Another thing we found was this large sheet of plexiglass.
Yes. And a few different sounds we made from it. One of which one are we doing?
Side to side.
No,
let's do the big one.
This one we discovered kind of sounds like booming footsteps.
Giant footsteps,
Yeah.
like the ones that you'd hear of the machines coming down and starting to walk on the earth in War of the Worlds.
Yeah, ready? Or the T-Rex walking around.
That's a lot of air hitting the microphone right there.
Yeah. And then our last sound effect, we are actually got specifically for War of the Worlds. It is a crank siren. We're going to go ahead and do it now.
If you don't have a fancy siren, you can always get a hold of your kazoo and
sounds just as good. And that's our little demonstration of Foley.
Hope you all tune in.
I really liked the plexiglass. That was really a good one. Yeah, wow. Thank you, gentlemen. So anyway, tune in on October 29th. Don't miss our show with the astronaut, Don Thomas. Then the very next day, October 30th, tune in, 7 p.m. We will be doing the War of the Worlds, the complete broadcast. We'll be making the sound effects ourselves. And it's just going to be, it's a great lead up to Halloween, which is the next day. So we come to the end of tonight's program, and I always leave you with a thought for the week. And I don't know. I had to think twice on whether I was going to say this one, but it's kind of a commentary on things. Recently, a mom was heard saying that she would not let her child watch Peppa Pig because it encourages bad behavior, things like jumping in puddles. Well, I watched Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote as a kid, but so far I haven't blown anything up. Anyway, folks, have a great week and cheers.